Welcome back to Comic Cappers. Today we will be capping Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 5, where the fallout of the ritual meets the final stand against the Tetracide. With that said, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. The chaos in Gateway City is being broadcast live, and the news feed is already narrating the nightmare. A massive, tentacled cosmic horror, the Tetracide has arrived, and it clearly didn't anticipate the resistance it's facing. While the news anchor notes that a direct hit might have been more effective, they're forced to settle for the fact that a mysterious Wonder Woman is at least keeping the beast at bay. Diana maneuvers with tactical precision, manifesting a barrage of glowing, ethereal blades that rain down upon the creature's pulsating, alien hide. It's an overwhelming display of power, yet the sheer scale of the Tetracide makes her efforts feel like a desperate, uphill battle. Standing amidst the wreckage, Diana strikes a surprisingly intimate pose, raising her sword as if communing with a comrade. She offers a chillingly polite, "Hello, my friend, thank you," turning the weapon into an extension of her own lethal will. Up close, the toll of this fight is written on her face. Her eyes are burning with a supernatural intensity, and the exhaustion is palpable. She knows this isn't over, conceding, "I doubt the injury will be enough to get it to retreat," but leaving the grim reality of the next escalation hanging in the air. The military is throwing everything they have at the Tetracide, but Diana knows that missiles alone aren't going to cut it. She watches from the periphery as a jet fires, the sound of the launch tearing through the air. The impact is massive, a blinding explosion against the creature's hide, yet it's clearly not enough. The Tetracide is an absolute wall of cosmic horror, and Diana is forced to realize that her kinetic efforts are just a stall tactic. Things get even worse. The beast isn't just taking hits, it's absorbing the incoming barrage. The sound of the missiles grinding into its defenses is visceral, signaling that the firepower is failing. The situation spirals as Diana realizes the city is still in the crosshairs. As a strike hits, she cries out, "Hera, no." Diana is pushed to her absolute limit, reaching out with her magical prosthetic arm to channel raw energy as she desperately calls upon Hecate for assistance. Despite her intervention, the chaos of the battlefield proves overwhelming. 2 missiles are redirected, but a third remains on a collision course with Gateway City, leaving Diana agonizingly out of position. Her expression shifts from fierce determination to pure, wide-eyed shock as she realizes the catastrophe is moments away. A spectral, skeletal Pegasus swoops in, unleashing a blast of fire to intercept the incoming missile before it can strike the city. Diana hovers above the skyline, acknowledging the divine intervention that saved the day. She breathes a sigh of gratitude, offering thanks to Hecate and her summoned steed. With the immediate threat detonated safely away from the populace, the skeletal Pegasus banks away, its mission accomplished for the moment. Diana's gaze narrows. Her eyes glow with a fierce, cold intensity as she resolves to put a permanent end to this chaos. Diana hovers alongside a military jet, her presence in the sky a jarring, surreal sight for the pilot. She approaches the cockpit with a weary, authoritative calm, warning the pilot against further reckless missile strikes. The pilot, clearly stunned, can only stammer a respectful agreement as Diana drifts away. Diana turns her attention back to the battlefield below. The Tetracide is already regenerating, its grotesque form knitting back together. With her conventional options exhausted, she realizes she is running out of time, and that it is finally time to embrace a truly desperate, dangerous solution. We flash back to the Wild Isle, a desolate place where Diana and Circe share a quiet, heavy moment by the fire. It's a chilling contrast to the chaos of the present day, with Circe framing Diana's future as a brutal necessity. Circe shifts, her expression softening into something almost regretful as she acknowledges the weight she's placing on her daughter's shoulders. Circe doubles down, though, rejecting the idea that Diana's path is purely dark. She insists it's glorious, a terrifying perspective that defines their strained, manipulative bond. Circe presents the glowing lasso, Auja. She explains its dark purpose. It's a tool of transformation, but one that demands a heavy price. The form Diana takes depends entirely on what the lasso holds, planting the seed for the Medusa Transformation we've seen in the heat of battle. Diana accepts the truth, her eyes reflecting the green glow of the weapon. She understands the stakes and the sacrifice she's about to make. Back on the Wild Isle, Diana sits by the fire, her silhouette framed against the eerie crimson glow of her magic. We see the brutal reality of her training, a fierce mid-air struggle against a winged beast, showcasing the raw, physical violence she must master. Diana stands, the lasso Auja coiled in her hand, a living conduit for the power she's being forced to wield. She moves with a predatory focus, tracking her target through the gloom of their training ground. Circe waits by the campfire, her tone sharp and demanding as she acknowledges Diana's return from the hunt. Diana pins the creature, her hands glowing with the same verdant energy as the lasso, asserting her dominance over the beast. Circe critiques the display, praising Diana's skill in transmogrification while admitting her own limitations. She pushes Diana to be direct about the experience. Diana's face is illuminated by the intense green light, her expression caught between the thrill of power and the horror of what she's becoming. She finally speaks her truth to her mother, calling the nature of her power into question. Circe looms over Diana, her crimson silhouette casting a long shadow as she offers a cold, pragmatic lesson on the necessity of violence. Diana, battered and weary, kneels on the harsh terrain of the Wild Isle, clutching the glowing lasso auga while Circe continues her biting critique of Diana's hesitation. Diana stares into the small campfire, her posture defeated as she dryly reflects on the outcome of her training. Diana turns the internal conflict over in her mind, pondering the true nature of her mother's dark teachings. Diana looks up toward a towering, spectral manifestation of her own power, and as she seeks clarity, the voice of her companion cuts through the silence, forcing her to confront the ambiguity of her burden. Diana and Steve continue their tense, philosophical debate, with Diana questioning Circe's cold detachment. She wonders if her mother's cruelty is actually just a calculated sense of scale that she herself lacks. Steve refuses to sugarcoat the reality of their situation. He points out that if Circe, who possesses foresight, forged such a brutal weapon for Diana, it's because she knows exactly what's coming. Diana pushes back, clarifying the limitations of Circe's power. She isn't omniscient, and Diana is starting to wonder if the path she's being led down is a dangerous detour. Diana gazes forward, her expression hardening as she gives a single, chilling answer. Diana stands before a towering, spectral manifestation of a deity. The presence looms over her, demanding to know the source of her internal conflict. Diana admits the truth. She has always trusted Circe implicitly, even when warned against her own naivety. But the auga, this weapon, has finally cracked that foundation, revealing a fundamental divide in how they perceive the world. Diana is immediately chastised for her candor, quickly backtracking and offering a humble apology to the goddess for speaking out of turn. In a moment of heavy revelation, the deity reveals the true nature of the lasso. It isn't just a tool, it is a physical extension of Circe herself, forged in love, pain, and blood. The transformation it demands is the very essence of Circe's power, and it was Diana who inspired her mother to believe in that power of change in the first place. Diana sits across from Circe, her green skin glowing in the dim light of the study as she clutches the auga lasso. She is heavy with guilt, finally breaking the silence to offer an apology to her mother. Circe, ever composed, dismisses the notion of forgiveness as if it were a triviality, but Diana isn't letting it go that easily. Diana kneels before Circe, pouring out a heartfelt confession. She acknowledges the immense shadow Circe casts as both a mother and a god, admitting that she had lost sight of the fact that Circe wasn't born with her power, she forged it through unimaginable hardship. Diana realizes that Circe's strength was also tempered by love. She accepts the auga for what it truly is, a necessary tool that corrects her own limited perspective. In a profound moment of reconciliation, Diana admits she was wrong to ever doubt her. With her pride cast aside, Diana bows her head, seeking not just the weapon, but the guidance required to truly master the terrifying power Circe has entrusted to her. Diana hovers above the sprawling expanse of Gateway City, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She is mentally reaching out to Circe, questioning if her mother truly foresaw this treacherous path. She begins to channel the auga, knowing that this transformation requires absolute, unwavering focus. There is a haunting uncertainty in her voice. She knows how to change, but she isn't entirely sure if she can ever come back. Diana studies the massive, pulsating Tetracide below. She is dissecting the monster's defenses, realizing that its reliance on sound as both weapon and armor is its greatest strength, but also the key to its potential undoing. A sudden realization hits her as she watches the creature. The solution was flying right in front of her all along. With the skeletal Pegasus in her sights, Diana finally connects the final piece of the puzzle. The path to defeating the Tetracide is clear, and she is ready to commit to the transformation. Diana begins the ritual, her internal monologue reflecting the heavy price of this transformation. She is consciously stepping into a role that is both legendary and cursed. The magical energy of the auga wraps around her, a visual manifestation of the bond between her and the dark power she is wielding. She is literally binding herself to the curse. She stands in a state of suspended animation, acknowledging the eternal, hellish cycle of injustice that this power represents. It's a sobering moment of realization for the last Amazon. Diana steels her resolve. This isn't a choice made for glory, but a calculated sacrifice for the greater good of Gateway City. With her eyes glowing, Diana makes a final, desperate plea to Circe, hoping that her identity as Diana of the Wild Isle won't be completely erased by the monster she is becoming. The transformation takes hold and the pain is immediate and visceral. Her humanity is being violently overwritten. As the process continues, she struggles to hold onto the last shreds of her conscious thought. The transformation is complete. What remains is no longer Diana, but a terrifying, scaled force of nature. She is the embodiment of doom. The transformation is complete. Diana of the Wild Isle is gone, replaced by a towering, serpentine horror. She stands amidst the rubble of Gateway City, her identity fully consumed by the mythic curse she's embraced to survive. She issues a chilling, hollow declaration of her new existence. There is no humanity left in her gaze. The snakes that crown her head hiss with predatory intent, and she delivers a final, lethal warning to any soul unfortunate enough to look upon her. The transformation has turned the last Amazon into the ultimate weapon of stone-cold death. The world watches in horror as a live news feed captures the impossible. Diana has manifested as a serpentine monster, and the observers are struggling to process the sheer scale of her transformation. Steve Trevor and his team are glued to the screen, grappling with the grim reality of the myth Diana has become. One of them begins to recount the tragic origin of the Gorgon, explaining how she was once a priestess of Athena, violated by Poseidon within the goddess's own temple. The retelling continues, noting that Athena punished the victim rather than the perpetrator, cursing her with that monstrous form. The group is left reeling at the injustice of the ancient myth. The discussion shifts to the nature of divine cruelty. They acknowledge that history is often contradictory and unreliable, but they drop a massive bombshell. The true curse of Medusa was never the form itself. The narration clarifies the true, terrifying nature of the myth. This isn't just about a monstrous form, it's about the lethal, unavoidable weapon Diana has become. She towers over the cityscape, a serpentine force of nature confronting the cosmic horror of the Tetracide, and just like that, the consequence is realized. The Tetracide, a threat that seemed insurmountable, is instantly calcified. Diana's gaze has turned the creature into a literal statue, frozen mid-shriek. It's a brutal, absolute victory that highlights exactly why Diana was so terrified to use this power. She has successfully weaponized her own existence, but the cost of such a victory is etched in stone. The Tetracide is down, turned to stone by Diana's gaze, but the immediate relief is cut short by a haunting question. Why does the transformation persist? Watching the live feed, the group realizes that the danger hasn't passed. Diana is still trapped in the monstrous form of Medusa. The concern deepens into a terrifying psychological question. If Diana has fundamentally altered her essence to become this weapon, what remains of her humanity? The group wonders if she can even remember who she was before the change. Etta Candy is the first to voice the harsh reality. If Diana has lost herself, someone needs to pull her back. But as Steve Trevor prepares to intervene, Etta tries to stop him, knowing that approaching a Gorgon is a death sentence. Steve won't be swayed. He reminds Etta of the debt he owes Diana. She literally sacrificed her own arm to drag him out of the underworld. He isn't going to abandon her now. With a blindfold in hand, he makes his move, determined to be the anchor that reminds Diana of her true self, even if it means risking his life. Steve approaches the monstrous, serpentine form of Diana, who hisses in a primal, warning tone as the reality of her transformation looms over the ruined city street. He calls out to her, his voice trembling but steady, trying to cut through the haze of the Gorgon's curse to reach the woman beneath the scales. Steve lists the reasons she must return, reminding her of her heroism and the sacrifice of her own arm to save him. He pleads with her to remember her roots and the identity she forged as the Witch of the Wild Isle. As he continues his desperate litany, he identifies her lineage, calling her the daughter of Circe, hoping this connection will anchor her to her humanity. In a stunning reversal, the serpentine form fades, replaced by Diana in her human guise, standing amidst the fading magical energy as she reclaims her title as the hero of Gateway City. They embrace, the tension breaking as the weight of the moment hits them both. Diana admits that while the nightmare is nearly over, this final act of connection is the most satisfying victory of all, thanking Steve for being the anchor she needed. Diana hovers above the petrified, colossal remains of the Tetracide, a silent, grim sentinel surveying the wreckage of the battle she just won. Descending to the ground, she offers a solemn prayer of gratitude to the pantheon, invoking Hera, Hecate, Artemis, Hestia, Aphrodite, and Demeter for the divine aid that empowered her transformation. She turns her focus to Athena, grappling with the dark irony that the same divine cruelty which cursed Medusa ultimately provided the weapon to save Gateway City. Steve finally calls out to her, breaking her reverie. Safe now, the group gathers in the shadow of the stone titan. They are shaken, processing the impossible reality of what they just witnessed, and Steve asks the question on everyone's mind. How could she possibly have known that this gamble would work? Diana holds the skeletal remains of the Pegasus, her expression haunted as she explains that she didn't know. She only knew that the story of Medusa is a tragedy of divine betrayal, an irony she had to embrace to secure their survival. Diana stands amid the ruins, her internal monologue reflecting on the dangerous allure of hate. She acknowledges that even the gods aren't immune to the bitterness that fueled Medusa's tragedy, and she expresses a quiet, sincere gratitude to those who helped anchor her back to reality. As Steve, Trevor, and the others look on, Diana begins to drift away. She seems caught in a trance, insisting there is still work to be done, as if she is being pulled toward another duty or perhaps a deeper, darker destination. Steve screams her name, desperate to keep her present, but Diana is already phasing into a glowing, ethereal portal, her form dissolving into light as she descends into a chasm. The group stands at the edge of the pit, stunned and horrified, watching as the woman who just saved their world simply vanishes into the unknown. And that unfortunately concludes our comic cap for today. With Diana now vanished into that mysterious, glowing chasm, do you think she was pulled in by a lingering consequence of the Medusa curse, or has she been summoned by the very pantheon she just prayed to? Let me know your answer in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe and press that notification bell for daily comic caps. Until next time, take care, brush your hair, I'll see you when I see you, peace.